specifically Limassol. Cyprus in general is a beautiful place. It's very compact. You can go anywhere. Limassol is the center of all of this pretty much, as far as I'm concerned. And you can go anywhere you want to very easily. Okay, the traffic's not great all the time in Limassol, as we know, but never mind. But it's also, it's clean, it's safe, it's a great place to raise kids. It's like a big village in a good way. People care about, most of the people that you're going to meet are going to care about you and care about your well-being and care about your kids. Greek is a very difficult language. It can be difficult. But if you don't focus on making it perfect, if you focus on the point of language, which is to communicate, then it doesn't really matter if you say it wrong. People just are so happy that you're making the effort.
You couldn't find trained staff. What did you do?
No, we didn't want trained staff. I wanted to have people who I could train to do what I wanted to do the way I wanted them to do it. That way you don't have misunderstandings. You don't have, people with, don't you know who I am? And I was like, I don't care. I just want you to do my job, please. Before you do anything else, research your product and your market and everything else really, really well. And even if it takes way too long or way longer than you expected it would, make sure you do your research properly, because you may have a lot of competitors you weren't even aware of before you even, open your doors. Also, you need to get your financing in order because that's a big problem. I think it would be really helpful if the working situation, if the labor department would loosen up the rules about people who are allowed to work here. We need more parks, even if they're just small, tiny little places, somewhere nice and green. I find it really odd. I was driving past the park in the middle of town the other day, and I happened to stop at the lights, and I just happened to look at left, and it says, public park. No skating, no dogs, no football, no this, no that. I was like, why are we here then? What's the point of a park if you can't actually go and enjoy it?
People, stories, social issues, environment, sports, arts and culture, life, urban issues, innovation. This is the El Air Uncut.
Welcome to Limassol Ambassadors. This is a new podcast series of El Air Uncut channel. Here we invite internationals that live in Limassol, and we call them Limassol ambassadors because they have shown through their lives, their contributions, that they care about Limassol, they care about the future, and they promote Limassol wherever they go. I would say this is the best way of celebrating diversity, because diversity, of course, has always the downsides, the positive sides. Well, here we choose to focus on the positive sides because we do need to have some sort of positive energy in our days and in our lives. So I bring here to all of us to get to know some of these amazing citizens of Limassol, and I try to guide this conversation in such a way that we understand what they have done to help them feel Limassol as their home today. Today I have here with me someone all the way from New York. Lauren, thank you very much to be here with us.
Thank you for having me.
You are definitely a very important example for our series because, New York is the capital of diversity.
True enough.
Works, right? That's
Yep.
what we hear. That's what we have shown through many ways, films and many news online and everywhere.
And real life.
And real life. Okay, that's why you're here to tell us about that, among other things. So welcome once more. And first of all, I would like to say that you are among the people in Limassol that I feel privileged to know, because you will tell us how you have been throughout the last, 30 years? 40 years. Okay, 40 years, an active citizen, entrepreneurial, pioneer, innovator. We are going to tell all those stories to make people, to share with people what I am talking about. So, Lauren, from New York to Limassol. Okay. How do you feel now in Limassol? Do you feel Limassolian?
Yes, yes, it's a lovely place to live. I've lived here for 40 years, and through ups and downs and this and that, which everyone has in their lives, and you have them everywhere. So it's a beautiful place to live, and it's my home.
And you would say that Limassol is a place that you would still, after all these years, suggest to others to come and establish themselves here? Why?
Why? Well, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, it's specifically Limassol. Cyprus in general is a beautiful place. It's very compact. You can go anywhere. Limassol is the center of all of this pretty much, as far as I'm concerned. And you can go anywhere you want to very easily. Okay, the traffic's not great all the time in Limassol, as we know, but never mind. But it's clean, it's safe, it's a great place to raise kids. It's like a big village in a good way. People care about, most of the people that you're going to meet are going to care about you and care about your well-being and care about your kids. You don't have to worry about them going out. It's wonderful in that way. It's wonderful in that way. So I enjoyed it.
And since you came to Limassol, my God, in 40 years, a lot has changed
a little bit.
Yes, but I'd like you to take us to your first, let's say, moments in Limassol. How hard was it, and how long it took you to integrate and feel sort of part
of a bigger whole?
Yes.
Well, actually, I was very, very lucky because I came with my partner at the time, and his family, they're Cypriot, Greek Cypriot, and his family he's great, but his family are fantastic. So I never had a problem with fitting in because they welcomed me literally with open arms. And they were always wonderfully inclusive. So they would speak to me in Greek, and I was like, okay. And so I quickly learned to say, how can I help? And they were like, oh, okay, that's great. Well, you can do this and you can do that and you can do the other. And it's like, okay, I'll do that then. And so it was easy to get along. It was easy to integrate yourself into the family like that. And then work, we worked together in a family business, and that was interesting and
okay,
weird,
sure. Yes, I'm sure that the first stages, especially in terms of work, it must have needed quite a lot of effort from your side to cope.
Yeah.
Because it's different climate, different ways, different
everything.
Different everything. Yes.
Yeah.
But you found a way, because the first thing you said there about Greek, it really says a lot about your success here. From what I know, the fact that you straight away made the big effort of speaking with them in the local language. How did that happen? How did you work it out?
Well, I like to communicate anyway. I'm a very communicative person, so I didn't find it that hard. I mean, okay, Greek is a very difficult language. It can be difficult. But if you don't focus on making it perfect, if you focus on the point of language, which is to communicate, then it doesn't really matter if you say it wrong. People just are so happy that you're making the effort. Exactly. So if you say blah, 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 and it comes out backwards, it doesn't matter. People are going to say, oh, that's really good that you tried.
Did you have some lessons before coming?
Yeah, I did. And pardon me, in New York, I took lessons because I knew I was going to move here. But we learned Greek, like the proper Greek, like ti ine afto, inito, afto, kinito. And then you come here and you say things that way, and they're like, what? So they say, and you're like, oh, that doesn't sound like what I just said. So, or you'd ask a question and they'd reply in very different vernacular. So like, all right, I don't know what you just said, but I'll smile anyway. So
okay, so smiling
makes a big difference.
Yes. So basically, because I also know a lot about your experiences, I know that you have gradually developed the knowledge of Greek, but with the Cypriot vocabulary and accent, also throughout your various experiences in your companies. So you were working with your staff. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But just the fact that you learn the language on the job.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, you have to. Language is the kind of, in my opinion anyway, language is something you need to learn while using it. You can't sit, well, you can sit at home with a book, but it's not going to give you the same experience. You can, when you go out and say, what is this? How much does it cost? Where do I buy it? Or what do I want? Where's the bus? You're going to learn so much more than just sitting at home learning. Where's the bus? You're not getting any feedback at all. And there's no point, in my opinion anyway, there's no point in communicating.
The progress is completely different,
Yeah.
of course. Now I'm going to take you a little bit back because before we start telling our audience about your entrepreneurial experiences here in Cyprus, I'd like us to go a little bit back to New York because, as we said, the fact that you are here, it's a good opportunity for us to understand how do New Yorkers feel in terms of diversity. What do you remember from those years? Because you were born there, you were brought up there,
raised there.
What do you remember from those times?
It was a non-issue. Diversity was just something it wasn't even was spoken about because there were some very difficult times in the 60s when I was a very small child. There were some very difficult times. However, the big picture is that it was always diverse and there was always a mix of people. And you don't say, that person's this and this person's that and that person's something else. It's just like, these are the people who live in my building, or my area or my block or my school or my whatever. You're a different type of group. You're not grouped by ethnicity. You're grouped by what you're doing together, whether living together, going to school together, on the bus together, or whatever. It's grouped in a different way. And it makes life a lot more pleasant and a lot easier and much more interesting because then you learn things about other people that you wouldn't necessarily learn from people who are exactly the same as you,
And this, you also feel now that you are an adult and you also have children, do you feel that this was also helped and kind of fostered throughout the educational system maybe?
When I was a child?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yes, yeah. It was a very big issue when like I said, in the 60s, there was busing between areas of, let's say for the sake of argument, the black areas and the white areas, which I don't like calling them that, but that's what it is at the moment. At the time, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And so there's busing backwards and forwards to integrate the school system at the time. And it wasn't easy because nothing's ever easy when you start something. And there was a lot of kickback and a lot of people like, I don't want my children to go there from both sides. But it was a successful, not experiment, but it was a successful project because now pretty much everything is integrated in that way. And also the city is integrated. There still are areas of ethnicity, let's say, of this or that or the other. But generally speaking, it's pretty much integrated everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So
now that we talk about education, I would like to bring you to the education that you were able to witness here in Cyprus with your own children. Do you feel that in schools here, your children had the same sort of introduction to diversity? What do you feel about that, and what would you like to see happening there?
My kids are, to give you some perspective, my kids are 23 and 24 now, something like that. So we're talking about quite a few years ago, but there really wasn't. And they went to school in a village. So diversity as such did not exist. So everyone was homogenous, everyone was exactly the same, which there's nothing wrong with that. However, as long as people have open ears and open eyes and open minds to be able to say, yes, there is something different out there. Even if I'm not experiencing it here and now, there is something different, and it's not a bad thing. So there wasn't that kind of diversity. And we tried to bring it a little bit into play, and with mixed results. And things are different now in the village that we live in. Now that 25% of the houses are actually inhabited by foreigners of some type. Right. So it's much more diverse. The public school they're going to now, they were going to, is much more diverse. So I'm sure that there's more inclusion, more, thought given to diversity. as you can see by the artwork on the school walls, which is good to see. So I'm very happy about that. But
the reality is that we now know, because your children, as you said, are already adults, young adults, we now know that the fact that they didn't have that sort of introduction in schools here, it didn't really create any sort of difficulties for them to be open, because today they are very open and they are definitely very tolerant towards all sorts of we see that through their friends and the people that they are with. They are all different nationalities. So
true enough.
That means that you did a good job there at home to compensate the lack of let's say introduction to diversity in schools, maybe
perhaps. But I mean,
balance, maybe.
Well, yes, but it's also, I mean, because our family was mixed. I think it was a lot easier because it's automatically two different cultures coming together in a household, and then you bring in friends and from different places in the world. So it was much different for them than it was, let's say, in any of their classmates' families necessarily. If you have the same people and the same people and the same people, it's not so easy for them.
Upbringing.
Yeah, it's the upbringing and
combination of everything that children do throughout their first 15, 20 years.
Absolutely. And also we were lucky enough to be able to travel out of Cyprus from time to time, so
which opens again the horizons.
Absolutely, the horizons, and see what's out there.
Right. Okay. Before we go into the more professional side of your life, I always ask our guests to give us some ideas, some suggestions, because you are now in Limassol for so long. You must have some sort of favorite spots, and maybe you could show them on the map we have here. So hopefully at the end of this series of podcasts, we'll have a very
full
big variety of suggestions.
Okay. Yes. Let's see. Okay. I like Ios Yorgos Alamanos, which is here.
Okay. Why?
Because it's a really interesting. It's got very, very interesting topography. It's very, very beautiful white rocks, especially in the summertime when the sky is blue, 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 and the sea is blue as well. And these white rocks, they just stand out. It's gorgeous. It's really, really lovely. And there's restaurants there, so that's nice too. The beach is for swimming and not fantastic for kids.
Okay.
Keep that in mind.
Okay, so it's
but it's good. It's very interesting.
Okay, different ages. Okay.
And then also I like a lot going up from my village up to somewhere near Kelaki and these places. Beautiful mountain views. Beautiful mountain views and lovely villages. Lovely, lovely villages.
Thank you.
Those are nice.
So we have another one maybe?
Yeah. And my favorite beach in all of Cyprus is Kurium, which is all the way on the other side of the map.
Okay, all right.
So,
where's
that? Kurium is here.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. That's my favorite beach, and also Kurium, the artifacts on top are amazing. They're well worth a visit. And then you can go down and have fish and go to the beach. So all day.
This is let's say the luxuries of living in such small and at the same time open spot.
Absolutely. There's a lot to
Limassol.
do. There's a lot to do. You just need to look for it. It won't necessarily drop itself on your doorstep, but there's a lot to do.
Right. So this is your curiosity telling us, get out and explore.
Absolutely.
Yes, I know that you love to do that.
Yep.
I would like to connect that with what, in fact, I think it's one of your biggest achievements here in Cyprus, which is the fact that you created a situation where you told Limassolians at the time, and then gradually Cypriots, because you spread throughout Cyprus, come over and explore my New York Sweets, because you are the founder of New York Sweets, a brand that today everybody knows. And of course, New York Sweets was created by someone from New York. Okay, now I feel that those that were there and could see the way you started your business, at the time, nobody really were talking about being entrepreneurial. Nobody was really helping women in business. Nobody was really considering that you were a pioneer, bringing new ideas. It was all about tough times for you to get through all those obstacles. I'm going to ask you a lot about that. Just tell me, how did this idea came to your mind? How did you think at the time, I can make this happen?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the original idea was based on a cafe that was around the corner from where I was living in New York. And they had beautiful cakes and lovely, and they had a cafe and also a bakery in the same place. So, and they were making their cakes every day and selling them fresh every day, and the cafe was gorgeous and this and that and the other. So that was the original idea. And then we started actually doing it, myself and my husband, and he was an equal partner. So anyway, and so we started doing it and then realized we don't have the time for a cafe because we were way too busy making cakes and cookies and brownies and blah, 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 blah. So we just pushed the cafe on the side and just focused on the bakery itself. So it was good. It was very hard work.
Very hard work. But I'd like you to tell us the very, very first stages where I was lucky enough to be part of those tasting your creations. I now see that what you've done back then, it was an amazing strategy, which was you had the ideas from your
collected recipes.
Yes, from your culture, because it was from what you had learned and what you had been used to during your first 20 years in New York. So you had your ideas. You wanted to reproduce those products here in Cyprus, but you were straight away you were aware of the fact that those people that you would potentially sell the products to, they had never had a brownie, for instance, right?
Or cookies.
I mean, I'm from Portugal. I had never had a brownie back then.
No.
So you did the most amazing thing. You just prepared those things in your kitchen and you start asking people around, Cypriots that would be your potential to taste. Now, this is a proper strategy for new products to be introduced to a new market. Were you taught to do that, or it just came out of...
It was total luck, basically. Luck, let's say, but something along those lines. We just thought...
Common sense,
Common
right?
sense, basically, yeah. It's like, I wonder if this is good. I like it. I wonder if they like it. Try it. And they liked it or didn't like it.
There are a lot of books out there, especially coming from USA, which are exactly that. Putting, listing basically best practices that worked before, and they were not even, a very, very strict strategy. So there you go.
Yep.
Yes, you could write your book of how to create how to create new products in Cyprus in terms of confectionery. Okay, but what about the difficulties that you had back then? Tell us.
Okay, the difficulties were abundant, and mainly with, first ingredients, the raw ingredients, because it was very difficult to get hold of fresh cream. What you find now, anyway, you don't want to hear how we found it, but anyway, it wasn't as the same as it is now, let's put it that way. And same thing with eggs, really basic things like eggs, and chocolate and flour. I mean, okay, you could find ingredients, but they weren't necessarily the quality that you would want. And so it was very hard, very, very hard to begin with. And some of the times we had to not compromise, but say, like somebody used to come by, and this is honest, he would come by and bring a bucket of eggs and he'd say, I sell eggs, would you like to buy it? And I was like, okay, show me the eggs. And they were in a bucket broken. And I'm like, we don't use broken eggs. He says, but it's easier because they're already broken. I was like, but I don't know where they've been. I don't know how long they've been there. I don't know how food safe they are and all this. He said, well, all the bakeries buy them. I was like, that may be so. However, that's not going to fly here. But thank you. And so things like this where it was just common practice, and I'm not saying everyone else was doing this. I'm simply saying the man was selling me this on those pretenses. Common practice was like that. And it was very hard to find fresh butter, in a usable, you can buy little teeny tiny packages sometimes. And all sorts of ingredients were very hard to come by.
The chocolate, which is essential
very
for brownies, for instance.
Yes. Yeah, a few times we ended up having to bring our own chocolate from abroad because we couldn't find, or they'd run out, or cream cheese, because you only use Philadelphia cream cheese in cheesecakes. And if the supplier ran out, I was like, oh, well, no cheesecakes. I was like, wait a minute, what? So that was it. There was just cheesecake was off the menu until whoever it was who was bringing it at the time brought some more. And you're like, that doesn't make sense. But now it's much different. We're talking about, we started in 1987, so a very long time ago. So, supply and demand is much different now, and it's much more, I'm sure it's much more professional and much more modern, and it has grown over the years. So, good news.
What about staff? You couldn't find trained staff. What did you do?
No, we didn't want trained staff. I wanted to have people who I could train to do what I wanted to do the way I wanted them to do it. That way you don't have misunderstandings. You don't have, people with, don't you know who I am? I was like, I don't care. I just want you to do my job, please. So we had lovely, lovely ladies, mostly lovely ladies from the area that we were working at the time. Originally, we were working in Potomac, so we had some lovely ladies from the area there. And then we moved down to Ioyani, had some lovely ladies from down there. And it was nice. It sounds cliche like a family, but it wasn't like a family, but very close, and I'm still friends with quite a few of the ladies. And when we see each other, we're like, oh my God, I can't believe how you are, and all this. It's lovely. It's really nice. And I've known their kids, and they've come to our baptisms, and it's all very, it's not a family, but it's like a family, and it's lovely. It's really, really nice. And the people are great. And the ones that aren't great, they usually leave anyway by themselves because they don't fit in. So.
What about the expansion? Because everything started in Limassol, but afterwards, after how many years did you start?
No, 5 months. After 5 months, we moved to Nicosia, and that was way too fast. It was actually, honestly and truly, way too fast. We didn't have our feet on the ground properly, and then we suddenly, and you could say it was a mistake, or you could say it was beneficial. Who knows? And then the story.
It was entrepreneurial risk.
It was done. So anyway, but it was, but the people in Nicosia, it was being managed by a cousin of Chris, and it went okay, and it was fine, and we expanded into Nicosia, and Nicosia was very popular, and then we expanded many years later, as you said, into Paphos, and then after that, we opened a second store in Limassol as well at some point, which wasn't a very good choice of location, but that's okay.
Okay, so
not everything is wonderful. So
you definitely went through the various phases of growth. So you scaled your business, and then you also came to the point where you decided that you wanted to.
Enough is enough.
Yes, give it for someone else to continue.
Yes.
So you created it, you created the brand, very successful. Still today, everybody connects New York sweets with quality, which is the most important thing when it comes to food.
Definitely.
So it was definitely a successful project. And it came to the point where you decided that you wanted to...
more out of life rather than just working.
Yes, have other, let's say, focus on other things. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
All right. So that means that now you are not in the food business. You have turned into other areas. You have tested yourself in other areas. You have also went back to learning stuff so that you could do new things. Now you are working with numbers.
Yeah, I'm working in an accounting capacity, let's say.
All right.
Yes.
So how does it work? At what age did you decided to change your direction?
About 50-ish.
Okay.
Ish. I don't remember
So
exactly.
it's never too late
No,
to...
it's never too late.
It's never too late to change. That's
and
very important.
and it doesn't matter if you can't do it as well as you could have done it at 20. That's not a good reason not to try, because you're going to succeed on some level. Even if you're not going to succeed 100%, you're going to succeed 80%, let's say. So, it's always well worth trying. And if you won't know unless you do try what you're good at and what you're not good at. And you might find that you're really terrible at it and say, well, that was a bad idea. Let's try something else.
What about the impact of what you did through New York Sweets, the impact on the city in Limassol? Have you ever thought of the fact that when you first created New York Sweets, the majority of the other businesses in your industry, they were quite similar to one another.
Yeah, there were a couple of standout ones, but the bulk of them were very similar to each other.
They were all producing the same sort of products. And the reason why I bring up this subject is because I witnessed that, right? So, and then after, when New York Sweets start being very popular, then we start also seeing that a lot of other competitors
took the same things on board.
Decided to expand
their range,
their range of products. So this means what? This means that in our terms nowadays, on digital terms, it would be influencer. You were an influencer before social media, right? This is a very, very important impact, don't you think so?
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's great, and it expands the range of products that are available to everyone and gets everyone more. Like now, if you say a brownie, everyone's had a brownie, which is great. I'm really happy that everyone's eaten brownies.
So
it's nice.
Thank you, Lauren, for teaching us what is a brownie in Limassol.
No
So this, I would say, is a very good example of how diversity brings something new, brings competition,
definitely,
and also makes people feel that, well, if she managed at that time with those obstacles, I can manage as well something else. So it's very inspiring, don't you think so?
I wouldn't have thought of it that way, but
yes,
if you
I'm
say
seeing
so.
it from the other side of the table.
Yeah, I can see that. It's I mean, like we already said, you don't know what you're good at until you try. And you might turn out that you're great at one aspect of a business, but you're terrible. Like you might be great at the numbers, but you're terrible at the HR, let's say, or whatever. So you focus on what you're good at and fill in the gaps in another way. So there's plenty of people out there who are willing to work with you or work for you, so that you can achieve what you want to achieve. It's not usually a problem, I don't think.
So, putting you now in this context of someone that has proven that you can set up a business even when the obstacles were huge, what would you say you would give as top advice, let's say to especially a woman today that wants to start to launch maybe a completely different product or just start something new in Limassol? What would you say are the most important things to have in mind? What are your advice?
Research. Before you do anything else, research your product and your market and everything else really, really well. And even if it takes way too long or way longer than you expected it would, make sure you do your research properly, because you may have a lot of competitors you weren't even aware of before you even, open your doors. Also, you need to get your financing in order. Because that's a big problem. So, but just, find the people who can support you and your initiative from around you. See if you can get people to help you who are good at, like if you have someone who is good at accounting, for example, see if you can get them to help you with it before you have to pay someone for it, for example, or things like that. Don't be afraid to take a chance as well. Don't put all of your money into it. Don't put your house into it, let's say, but, start small and get bigger. And, it'll come naturally most of the time.
And from everything you've said and everything I know about your first years, I think there is one very important thing that you have, that people have to remember, that is important to nurture, which is resilience. I mean, don't give up with let's say, 1,000 obstacles. It can be regulations, it can be whatever, but
Keep going.
Keep going. Which you are
True
an
enough.
amazing example of that.
True enough. But the other thing that is quite important is that you don't necessarily have to have a business partner or a life partner in it with you, but you need to have people that you can rely on. I mean, I was very lucky in my case that it was myself and Chris doing it together. It wasn't just me. It was, we were doing it together. And so if I was having a bad day, he could help. If he was having a bad day, I would help, or whatever. We were able to rely on each other. And that was, and he's good at certain things and I'm good at other things. So it was a natural, we were very lucky.
Each other.
Yeah, we were very lucky to complement each other that way. But it doesn't have to be, like I said, a partner in your life. It could be anybody, or it could be a group of people that you can count on to be able to support you, and they support you and you support them. So it's easier that way.
Back to what what we were saying in the beginning, the fact that you come already with a certain package as a New Yorker in terms of basically there you even without realizing you could see people coming up with new ideas, developing businesses. I mean, it was a usual thing back then, as it is today, and you might not pay attention, but it does influence you. But in your case, I think it goes even deeper than that. We were talking about this a bit earlier before the podcast. It comes also from your genes, because you are a very interesting gene pool. Ooh. Tell us about it, because I think always, all of us, at some point in our lives, we realize that, well, let's see, what am I made of?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And tell us, what are you made of?
What am I made of?
Yes, your ingredients.
Well, my mom was English, and she was born and raised in England, and then decided that she wanted something bigger and better and whatever. And so she left from England and moved to Canada, where she met my dad. My dad was Finnish by ethnicity, let's say, but his parents were itinerant farmers. And so they happened to be working on a farm somewhere in New Hampshire when his mom gave birth to him. So technically he was American, but he wasn't really. So they moved back to Canada and bought a farm on their own outside Toronto, somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And so he was raised in a very closed Finnish community. They spoke only Finnish, in a tiny little farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. And then he managed to go from there to Toronto, where he met my mom. And then they moved down to New York. So it's kind of like all over the place. But, bravo. Good for them that they managed to find each other and,
It's another story of diversity.
Absolutely.
And how life happens to people, and people make life also going in different directions. So they both came down to New York, and you were born in New York. This, I would say, it does prepare us, even if we don't think too much about it, for a certain period of our lives. And then there was a moment where we realized that this matters. This sort of input matters. And the important thing is always to see how we can use it for new initiatives and to improve whatever we have around us. Yeah. So now it's the moment where I'm going to ask you, what suggestions do you have for the future of Limassol? Yes, because I am sure that with all that package, with all the experience you had here as an entrepreneur, the variety of careers as well that you had the chance of developing, you must have seen so much that it could help the future of Limassol to have your ideas.
Definitely. I think, well, first of all, as far as the people are concerned, I think it would be really helpful if the working situation, if the labor department would loosen up the rules about people who are allowed to work here. I mean, they have to jump through so many hoops if they want to work here. If you're a foreigner, I'm talking about. And you can have people who are fully, qualified to do this, but I can't hire them. I'm not allowed to hire them because they don't come from this particular place. They have to come from somewhere else, and with so many different papers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's silly. It's really silly. It doesn't help. It doesn't help the city. It doesn't help the economy. It doesn't help anything. It would be a lot easier for everyone if they just made the rules a bit loose. I'm not saying loose like everyone do everything. I'm simply saying make it a little bit easier for people. Don't be so like black and white. I think also in Limassol would be great if we could have more parking, please, but not just me have more parking. I mean, when buildings and structures are being thought about and being, engineered and everything else, to make sure that there's enough parking for that building to be able to say, okay, we're expecting this place to have 100 people in it. Where are they going to park? For example, there's so many buildings that are being renovated downtown into multi-use, areas. Where are the people supposed to park when they're going to go use those multi-use areas? We have limited parking. And it doesn't mean we have to rip other buildings down. I'm simply saying maybe we should be making the buildings smaller or making underground parkings or. I'm not an architect. I don't know how to do this. But I'm sure there are ways of doing it because it's done all over the world. Must be able to happen here too. And also more parks. We need more parks. Even if they're just small, tiny little places, somewhere nice and green, somewhere that, kids can play, somewhere you can run around. I find it really odd. I was driving past the park in the middle of town the other day, and I happened to stop at the lights, and I just happened to look at left, and it says, public park, no skating, no dogs, no football, no this, no that. I was like, why are we here then? What's the point of a park if you can't actually go and enjoy it? If you're just supposed to do certain specific things and those things only, what if those aren't the things that people want to do these days? No roller skating. So I was like, okay, so they can't roller skate, they can't play football, they can't walk their dogs. What are they supposed to do? So places that are multi-use, so you can do a lot of different things. Molos is a beautiful example. It's really nice, and it's a great addition to Limassol. We need more places like that. We have the Gramiko Parco in the river. We need more like that, more spaces for everyone to use. So I want that to happen. I want parking.
Noted. We have parking, green, and
easier labor laws.
Right. You as a citizen, I know for a fact that you have always been very active. You have always participated in many events, and you are always having your own initiatives. I know you are also a nature lover, and I was going to ask you, what would you see for 2024 as your next, let's say, steps to contribute to Limassol? Do you have some sort of specific initiatives in mind, or you're just informed?
At the moment, no. I'm quite busy.
All right, okay.
really busy. But I would love to. No, I would love to take part in a lot of things. And actually, there's a lot of different initiatives going on that it is easy to take part in. There's, there's plenty of walks towards, to raise awareness of certain illnesses or, things that have happened. And there's all sorts of things happening, cleaning up beaches and this and that and the other. A lot of things that are going on now that never were, no, that's not true. They never were. They've grown in size and in number. So it's a fantastic thing.
And the access to them, as you very well said, the fact that now we can very easily go online and, check where is the next initiative and how can we participate. This is something that we will be complementing these podcasts with some articles that will show people how to get involved
and good idea.
How to become an active citizen,
because very often, from you then.
Yes, very often people say, there's nothing happening. Well, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But civil engagement and civic society, you from New York, you know very well how important it is in order to have a better governance of the diversity. So I'm sure that we can count on your support for any sort of activities that we might develop in the future.
Yeah, as long as they're fun.
Yes, we'll enjoy that with a funny side.
A fun side.
Yeah,
okay, that's
side.
good.
Yes, of course. So what about my last question is, what do you tell people, when you are abroad or when you speak with people who are abroad, about Limassol? How do you promote Limassol? Because as a Limassol ambassador, I know that you do that. What do you tell them? What are the important points that you highlight?
It's a nice place to live. It's a great place to live. The pace of life is quick, but it's not like killer quick like it is in New York or somewhere like that. There's a lot to do. There's plenty of things to do that are entertaining, but there's also it's safe. Like I mentioned before, it's clean. In comparison to a lot of places. Okay, we can complain about it, but really, it's a hell of a lot cleaner than New York, for example, or a lot of other big cities. It's clean. The floods aren't so great in the wintertime, but we don't mention that. And
they'll get better, right? We will keep asking for improvement.
Well, no, they are improving them. They are doing roadworks now, so that's meant to be being fixed. So, but it's safe, and you can walk around in the evening and not really worry that much. To a certain extent, you don't do silly things, but it's the same everywhere in the world. Yeah. But it's clean, it's safe, it's fun. There's a lot of different types of people here. There's a lot of different things to do. We're getting a lot more restaurants. I think you were saying something recently about Portuguese restaurants.
Yes,
somewhere.
We even have pastel de nata now in Limassol.
There you go. So.
Okay, pastel de nata is right now I think is a bit like your brownie.
There you
when
go.
You created New York sweets.
There you go.
Nobody knew what it was, and now everybody wants it. So I hope pastel de nata will be the same.
For the next one, yes, very good.
I'm not preparing them. I'm just consuming them.
Nice.
So, but yes, there is a much bigger variety, and food. Honestly, it is definitely an important way of getting people to explore other cultures, isn't it? Everything starts, very often everything starts with food. Yeah, New York has
millions.
The biggest variety of restaurants, precisely because it's the result of having so many communities. Well, Lauren, this was really a pleasure to have you with us. We could go on for a few more hours, but for this podcast, we will just
we'll finish here.
We'll just wrap it up here.
Okay.
Thank you so much, because I think that you are, especially as a woman, a very important positive element of Limassol, because it's not only the people that are out there and everybody knows. There are a lot of not well-known, unknown people to the big social, let's
hidden
say.
Stars.
Yes, hidden stars. Let's put it that way, yes. Because this, very often, these are the ones that really make the difference, not necessarily those that everybody knows. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
being here. And I hope that this conversation was an interesting conversation for all of you who are listening. Thank you for being here with us. And I would say that my take from everything we have said so far is that diversity and change is all about how people take the opportunity of being in a different place, learn from it, and respect it, and then at some point find a way of putting their stamp on it.
Absolutely.
And bring something new, like the brownie from New York Sweets. Thank you very much, and hope to be here with you again next week with one more guest, one more Limassol ambassador. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is the El Air Uncut.